Yep, that is glue all right.
Yes, you're gonna be the secret weapon that helps me win, my precious. This is mine!
Yep, that's glue. Elmer's white glue to be exact. And why am I putting white glue into a bunch of keycaps? Well, I have nothing else better to do. Safe and non-toxic. Actually, it's because of this.
I'm so sick and tired of being a sore loser and losing all of these challenges. So in this one, I challenge all of you guys to mod a similar keyboard. However, there's a twist. You're all gonna get randomized budgets and hopefully I get the highest one, so you're all going down.
Wait. Randomized budgets?
That's right. Could be $20, could be more.
$20?
Yep, that's all you get. And all tools are included because guess what? You don't just have lube lying around in your room now, do you? Don't say yes, because I know you all do, but let's just say you don't.
So Betty from Switch and Click gathered a bunch of us and challenged us to a keyboard modding contest. And being the masochist I am, I decided to accept. And what's the point of accepting a challenge unless you're in it to win it, right? And plan to win is what I did. And guess what? I did win. Actually, at least one portion of it, thanks to you guys. So there was a poll that was put out for the best sounding keyboard as well as the best looking keyboard. Well, I definitely did not win the best looking portion. However, I did win the sound portion. Science. Speaking of science, I have an interesting section in here, so please watch out for that. And I'll also provide a link to everyone's keyboard builds that participated in this little challenge, so check it out in the description below. So what was the details of this challenge, you ask? Let's get into it. So first, we all decided to use the same keyboard to keep things fair. This is a $40 budget keyboard that comes pre-built with everything included, switches, keycaps, and everything. This is the Womier WK61. And it's not that great stock. Then we spun for a modding budget that ranged anywhere from $20 to $60.
Ooh, big baller.
And your boy got the $50 budget. Sorry, Hippio. So how are we gonna mod this thing? I realized that $50, it's not enough to go fancy, so like no GMK caps or anything like that. However, it's enough to do little things, and little things, they add up. So first up, the Utamo Reds on this, it's not great. So I bought some JWICKs for 15 bucks. Then I need a lube for everything from switches to stabs, $7.96. Some sticky foam for the plate, $3.94. Some masking tape for the PCB. I couldn't afford the nice blue stuff, so regular it is at $2.29. Some polyfill for the case, $2.99. And some Elmer's glue, because I don't have enough money to buy nice keycaps, $1.39. And the secret weapon, this thing, the Gummy O-ring from a Bakeneko, $5. So out of the $50 budget I had, I actually spent $38.57. Now, how does all these things come together to make this? That sounds like this. Well, let's get started.
We shall start in 3, 2, 1, go shopping!
Alright, this is a keyboard that we all started off with, the Womier WK61. It's a 60% budget keyboard with a decent platform to build off of, I guess. But it's pretty budget, like $40 budget. It's a hot swap. I think that's pretty much it. Oh wait, actually it has a daughter board too, so that's pretty actually important. Other than that, this is a pretty basic keyboard. It comes with thin ABS caps, a steel plate, a thin tray mount plastic case, and these Utamu Reds. Honestly, I tried the box version of the Utamu Reds on the EUSO before and it wasn't too bad, but this one, I'm not sure what it is, but it just sounded so thin and cheap. I replaced them with Lube JWICKs, really nice and smooth for the price, just 23 cents each. Then I needed to do something about the plate. It's a heavier steel plate, but this thing still pinged like crazy. But I didn't really have the budget to get some custom plate foam cutouts, so I did this. Remember the stick-on foam? It's actually vinyl weather seal they use for doors and windows, but if you cut it, it actually works perfect for dampening metal plates, so I did that. Then I taped up the PCB. 3 layers in this case for that additional thocky sound. Now, the part you've been waiting for, the Gummy O-ring. This is the Gummy O-ring from a Bakeneko 60. Gummy O-ring mounts are interesting that it provides a nice and soft typing experience and also has a very clean sound profile. How does this work? Well, time for a quick technical segment. But before we do that, a quick word from our sponsor, Keeps For All. Keeps For All is a Los Angeles-based vendor that sells everything keyboard related, but one thing about them makes them truly unique. Keeps For All also has a marketplace that allows sellers to send in products they want to sell and buyers to buy. This is a great and trusted platform that allows both sellers and buyers to transact safely and also quickly. So if you want to sell, let's say, a highly coveted keyboard, instead of taking the risk on Mech Market, you send the keyboard into Keeps For All. Then they will inspect, confirm, and list the product up for sale at the price that you want to sell it for. Buyers can also buy with confidence because Keeps For All is inspecting every board and ensuring that it's at the condition the seller is actually listing it for. If you're not satisfied, you can always return it within 48 hours as long as the keep is in its original condition. You can literally sell and buy everything with confidence, from keys to switches to even keycaps. I could definitely go super broke from this marketplace, so check it out in the description below. So remember what I said about the airborne and structure-borne sounds? Airborne sound is when you type, the sound is generated, goes through the air and right into your ear. Structure-borne sound is when the force generated from your typing goes into the plate, the PCB, the case, causes it all to resonate and comes out as sound and into your ear. Now, in a typical case where there are hard mounting points, there's a lot of opportunities for structure-borne sound. However, in a keyboard like Bakeneko, the plate and PCB assembly is so well insulated. The only contact between the PCB and plate assembly and the case is through a soft gummy ring. So in the case of a gummy O-ring mount like the Bakeneko, you hear a lot more of the plate and the PCB, the switches and keycaps, and a lot less of the case and the case resonance. Typically, this yields a cleaner and clackier sound because you aren't hearing much of the case, and what you get into the case is actually mostly airborne. Now, let's get deeper into this so we can apply it to keyboards. From a structure-borne sound and noise perspective, there are 2 major factors that impact its frequency. First one is mass, or the weight of the object, and the second one is stiffness of the object. By convention, as the mass of the material increases, the frequency of the sound it generates decreases. It's actually inversely proportional. On the other hand, as the stiffness of the material increases, the frequency of the sound it generates increases as well. It's actually directly proportional. One easy and common application of this concept is a guitar. A standard guitar has 6 strings of different thicknesses and weight. So let's think about it this way. If you take all 6 strings and tension it the same, the thicker strings will sound deeper, and as you get thinner and thinner, it becomes higher pitched. So if you hold the stiffness the same, the heavier material will generate a deeper sound. On the other hand, if you take just 1 string, so mass is now held constant, and adjust the tension, the tighter or stiffer the string becomes, the frequency becomes higher. So if you loosen it and lower the stiffness of the string, the sound becomes lower. So deepest sounds come from soft, heavy things, and high-pitched sounds come from stiff, light things. Easy, right? Now we know this, so let's start to apply it to the keyboard itself. In the situation of a gummy mount keyboard like a Bakeneko, or in this case, the WK61 Keyboredneko, let's just call it that for the lack of a better name, you're hearing a lot more of the PCB and the plate. So then the PCB and plate material becomes very important in shaping the sound. Given that we can't really change the PCB material, let's focus on the plate. The plate in question in this case is a 60% plate, It's about 288 millimeters by 97 millimeters by 1.5 millimeters thick. It has a volume of 41,904 cubic millimeters or 42 cubic centimeters. Why is this important? Because of this next section. So when it comes to plates, many of us ask, which plate is stiff? Which one is soft? Then the question kind of changes to which one is thocky and which one is clacky. So let's try to address this in the most scientific way possible, shall we? So the first thing we want to hit is the stiffness of the plate. This is actually the easiest to determine. There is already a set constant called the Young's modulus that determines how easily the material could bend or stretch. So higher Young's modulus makes it harder to bend or stretch, which also indicates that the material is actually stiffer. This is actually measured in gigapascals. Given this, I created this chart to show some of the most common plate materials and their Young's modulus stiffness. As you can see, it pretty much follows a street convention we know. Steel is very stiff, carbon fiber also, and something like POM or PC is very soft. It's all numerical and objective. Makes a lot of sense, right? Also, this is something we can use to determine what material is thocky or clacky because, if you remember, stiffer materials is higher in frequency than softer ones. This is all great and all, but it only tells one part of the story when it comes to sound. Remember, sound is determined by both stiffness and the mass. So what happens if you look just at the mass? Remember the volume measurement we did of that plate, 42 cubic centimeters? Well, if you have the volume and the density of the material, you can actually easily find its mass. The equation is mass equals density times volume. Given that density for a material is constant and easily searchable, this is the mass I get, and the mass is in grams. So when you sort it by mass and correlate it to sound frequency, things get really weird. If heavier equals more thock, then brass and steel is the most thock? That's not really true. Well, it's because of the fact that you have to consider both stiffness and mass together. Going back to the guitar string example, you can take the thickest E string and tighten it a lot, and take a thinner A string and loosen it up a little bit. Even though the E string should be deeper, in this situation it'll actually sound higher pitched than the thinner A string. The same concept is actually being applied right now to the plate sound as well. So given that, how do we correlate stiffness and mass? It's actually more math actually. Now there's this metric called the specific stiffness. It's a measurement of the stiffness versus the weight ratio. This is actually something very important in the aerospace industry because if you're building an airplane, you want materials that are very stiff and also very light. So if the specific stiffness is high, it means that it's a very stiff material with a very low weight. It's calculated by taking the Young's modulus and then dividing it by its density. This is relatable in this case because stiff and light equals clack and soft and heavy equals thock, right? So a low specific stiffness equals thock and a high specific stiffness equals clack. Specific stiffness in this case is denoted by gigapascals over grams over cubic centimeters. I don't think that really matters too much at this point. So let's take a look. Overall, for the most part, this aligns with our street convention. Something like carbon fiber has a very high specific stiffness. We also know that carbon fiber plates are very clacky. On the other hand, something like polycarbonate has a very low specific stiffness, and we also know that PC is generally thocky. For me, everything was good, except one thing: brass. I think most of us in this hobby felt that brass is stiff and it should be a clacky plate material. However, because of its heavy weight, according to the calculations, it's actually one of the deeper sounding materials. I was really doubtful, so I also had a chance to review the natural frequency of brass versus aluminum versus steel, and it actually showed that brass had the lowest natural resonant frequency out of the three, so I tried it out. So I guess I can't really fight against science. The brass is definitely much deeper than the aluminum plate, so now I won't doubt. I know that this is probably a bit too much for most people, but now rather than saying, hey, Scott says PC is soft and Mike says carbon fiber is clack, we can look at this chart and say, yup, PC is softer and thockier than POM because it has a specific stiffness value of 2 versus 2.6. I know that this is not the be-all end-all data, because you have to also factor in like interactions and such, and there's a lot of things that also impact sound, but I think it's a good start to be objective. So with that all said, we know that the Keyboredneko will have a clackier sound profile due to its steel plate. Sorry we took such a long detour to explain this gummy mount and the plate impact the sound. So let's just keep going, shall we? So after I put the O-ring on, I had to cut off the standoffs. This way the O-ring will be able to function properly and give you that nice little bounce that you're looking for. One thing I also found was that the spacebar stabilizer is actually facing down for this one, so the O-ring actually rubbed against it and made the spacebar stick. So I had to actually tuck the O-ring underneath the PCB, but overall it was still okay and fit right in and worked out okay. And finally, I stuck in some polyfill in this case. The keyboard sounded hollow due to its cavernous nature, and we're getting a lot of airborne sound into the case, so the polyfill was actually a perfect tool to alleviate this. So now we have the major components modified. Let's go into the most tedious and ridiculous mod that I have ever done. This is called a glue double shot. Yes, I filled each keycap to increase the thickness of the cap. The caps were so cheap and I didn't have a budget for better caps. And it was a huge pain in the A. One cap at a time, then I waited for it to dry, and then I did another layer because I didn't realize that once the glue dries, it like turns super thin because it's mostly water. So I had to layer it. Should you do this? No. I had to do it because I didn't have the budget for nicer caps. So did it work? I don't know, maybe? I think so. I would like to say so after all that time. But all in all, this is the final product. Looks wise, it's the same as stock. Let's just say it's a sleeper keyboard, you know, or you could just call it for what it is. It's ugly. It definitely won't win any beauty contest, and it really didn't. I think the winner for the best looking went to Lewis. However, from a sound perspective, it's pretty good, and from a feel perspective, it's also pretty good too, so check it out. And that's the sound you voted for. I believe this was actually the Keyboard D from a sound test, and that was actually the winner. So thank you so much for voting for it.
Sounds the best is Keyboard D.
Oh, wow.
Which
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that is Scott's keyboard.
So at the end of the day, this keyboard was a total of about $79. So for under 80 bucks, you're able to emulate something close to a Bakeneko, like the whole thing built out, with keycaps and switches and everything. That is pretty cool. Overall, this was a very fun collaboration, and I hope that it was fun for you to watch as well. I want to thank Switch and Click, Hippio, Andy, and Lewis for inviting me to this collab. I hope I could do more of these collabs in the future, if I ever get invited again. I appreciate the votes for the best sound, I really do, and I hope that this can help some of you out there try something fun and creative with the WK61 or even your own boards as well. So thank you.